and say this, that I like the way you have detailed the figures, and I want to go to the figures. That in a year where we had a jump from almost 50 billion, is it? 53 billion. We had that kind of jump, 53 billion. We are actually being tempted to do the same. Because if you look at 405 and the proposal by Senate of 430 is almost that kind of a jump. But I also want you to go back.
It's 25.
Yeah?
It's only 25.
Yes. I want us to go back and say, where did the phenomenon of pending bills start in this country, especially for counties? It started when that jump was made. If you look carefully at the figures, did national government at that particular time give counties all the money that they had promised? They did not. They did not. When that jump was made, I think it was during Uhuru's time when he made that bold move and said, let's give county this amount of money. National Treasury did not realize the amount of money that counties were supposed to get. But counties went ahead and procured. So we had the first fundamental problem of pending bills. We are being tempted to do the same thing. You know, where we are looking at, yes, realistically, we want to look at the non-discretionary. We want to look at ensuring functions of the county are going on well. But we should never lose sight and drop the ball on the fact that we also have real collection and real disbursement. You can give today 430, but Treasury probably at the end of the day gets 390. But the governor will not plan with 390, will plan with the 430 we have given them. So we come back to the issue of pending. We need to be cognizant of the fact that we should take this country away from things called pending bills. And therefore, I want the fiscal analyst to tell us how much progressively have we accumulated a debt. How much has the debt been accumulated? Last year we gave 387. What is the actual that has been disbursed up to today, because we are 3 months late? What happened in the previous year? How much money was not disbursed? I know there was a year, I think the first year when Ruto came in, he disbursed every man, every coin, but the consecutive years, there has not been a realization of the figure that has been given. Therefore, my position is, Senate, you need to adjust your figure downwards so that you do not put counties into trouble. We keep on blaming county government bosses on the fact that they're accumulating pending bills, they're not able to pay salaries, they're not because we have told them money is here, is available, you plan, you budget, you do appropriations, and they will do appropriations with the figure 430, but at the end of the day, they'll only get 380, probably. So we put them in a problem. So my position on co-chairs, and I want to say this, probably as National Assembly, and I'm not talking as National Assembly, I want to talk as a Kenyan and as a legislator who understands what it is when a county government has pending bills. It kills young people, it kills business, people get auctioned, banks themselves get into trouble because they have loaned money and they are not able to recover. And so the economy of the country actually staggers a little bit because of the decision that we make in this kind of negotiation. So I want to say 408 as proposed by the National Assembly side is realistic, is achievable, is something that we can all strive to get and not put county governments into trouble. Honorable Boni Khalwale, I know you're a good doctor, you're a good analyst, you are a good politician, but I want you to keep all that aside. I just want you to be a fiscal person. Look at the fiscal space, look at what it is that we can achieve, what it is that we need to do going forward, and say probably 408 is a good figure, achievable, realistic, and will not will not balloon the concept of pending bills in this country. I rest my case.
Can I follow? Yes, thank you. Having looked at the figures that has been growing, in the 2021-2022, it remains stagnant from your figures. And that one can be attributed to the COVID-19, when we had COVID-19. Therefore, you could not be able to increase it. As we speak today, from the last financial year of 387.5 to now 405.1. Let me do it 4.5 first. 4.5.1. That is an increase of 17.6. And therefore, when we move to even 4.8, you add another 3. That means we're increasing by 20.6 billion. My colleague here, Honorable Boni Kalwale, who is a doctor like me, when you look at our minutes, they've only put policy as a national function for health. That is not true. Health is in the nation. It's also in charge of national referral facilities. It's in charge of research, which is money for KEMRI and KIBRE. Money for KEMSA is also included in the budget for the health. Money for vaccines, which are being administered in the county, they are also included in that budget for health. Money for health programs, which are being administered within the country, among them HIV, AIDS, and many other programs that are being supported in the counties are also being included there. We also have money for CHPs and money for community of universal health care workers, which I think with the time, once the functions will be transferred, once the salaries, payroll will be transferred to the counties, then I think as a committee we'll also still sit down and make sure that the money meant for their salaries will go to the counties. And as per the current budget, you have about 6 billion, which is money for the UHC workers. For CHPs, you have about 4.06 billion. That comes to close to already 10 billion, which will now be transferred as a conditional allocation to the counties. And therefore, that will still bridge this gap. This is money that is still being held at the national, because we are talking about transferring functions, and those functions must be followed with resources. So once that is done, then I think that money will also still be transferred to the counties. So I want to urge the senators that let's agree with the 4.8 figure for now, because we'll still continue. We have goodwill to make sure that any other function that we think it belongs to the counties should be transferred from the Ministry of Health, and you had also indicated within the Ministry of Water, and that as a committee in the budget will ensure that those functions are transferred together with resources. I raise my case.
Marianne.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, co-chairs. You know, your Friday negotiation did not have any lady, and we've really been struggling to put our hands up, and we are being...
Chair, it is wrong to say that we are all members of...
Yes, but it's nice to also appreciate gender. I think it is very important. Let's not about gender. No. Gender. Here, gender talks about the people who are less represented. I think it's very important. Yeah.
Honorable Senator Marianne has the floor. And the procedure is that you want to say something, you can say after she finishes. Kindly do not interrupt.
Thank you for that, Chair, and I think he needs to respect also our position as we speak. So anyway, coming to the issue we are talking about here today, I think it's important to also appreciate the situation that we are in this country. Last year, there was the Gen Z issue. And of course, you remember we rejected the finance bill, meaning that there was no revenue that was created or generated. Hence, the reason why we stuck our division of our DORA to 387. This year, if we look at the finance bill that is going to come before us, it's currently under discussion, there is not much revenue being generated. And because we don't have much revenue, I think it is also important to look at the situation at which we are in as a country. If we are not going to generate more revenue, where are we going to get this additional money that we are saying we want to give counties to the tune of 430 billion? Because from 387 to 430, that would be around almost 50 billion that we are looking at raising or increasing. Is our economy growing at that equivalent? Are we getting that money? Because it's nice to live within our pockets and within our space. I know we are only discussing DORA today. We are not discussing any additional revenue. But it is also nice to appreciate that also those additional revenues are coming from the same pocket. Me, as when I look at my budget in my house, I look at my pocket. This is how much I have. Whether I'll put some on my left pocket or some on my right pocket, it's still the money that will come. That is the only amount of money I have. So we are at about 408. If we look at these other additional monies, it's another 12 billion. 408 plus 12 is 420 billion. That is we are already within a budget that we are coming from one pocket, which is what we are trying to generate. So I think I want to implore on the senators that we look at this figure of 4.8 and say that from last year to now, we have increased by about 21 or 20 point something, almost 21 billion. And compared to the last year and the previous year, which was a very minimal increase, and say that this year we are actually making good progress. And I think if we leave that space, then we know that next year, putting all factors constant and saying that we will grow our economy, we can actually grow this figure further from the 20 billion that we are giving today to a further bigger figure. It's nice to always project and put growth, but I also want to like what Mheshimiwa Pukose said, despite the fact that he did not want me to call ourselves gender. That female, but the fact that he said that we need to consider issues of pending bills, because yes, we can actually put nice figures on the floor, nice figures on paper, but what will we be doing to our Kenyans when that mama goes to buy or is given a small tender by county government and they are not able to pay for that tender because the money has not come from National Treasury, because National Treasury has not collected that money? What have we done to that person whom we are all representing, both at Senate and at National Assembly? We will actually have hurt that particular mama who has struggled to supply whatever it is they've struggled. They've borrowed money and they are being hounded left, right and center by the banks because of figures we are trying to make to look nice here today on the table, yet in the real sense, this is the real figures that we are looking at and saying, let's give what is reasonable to counties and let national government remain with those what is reasonable, so that we actually end this menace of pending bills, which has become a real problem. I thank you.
Thank you, Co-Chair, and I want to support my colleagues. Actually looking at the figures from the previous years to the current time, and maybe the increment is about 2 billion or so. But now we are giving more 21 billion. With the current inflation that you're facing in this country, the current economic crisis, we also have to be reasonable. We are the same people will be going to the ground telling people the finance bill is 1, 2, 3, while actually whatever we are putting, sharing between the national government and the counties is unreasonable. Let us have that balance, okay? Let the counties run and let the national government also run. And so me, I'm of the opinion that the 21 billion that comes to 4.8 is reasonable, given that the increment has been of 2 billion or that percentage there. So I want to support that, Mr. Chair. And maybe we can move with these figures, because if we start stories, we will sit here until tomorrow. Let us close this. Thank you.
Senator Tabitha, come on record, then the floor I'll give to Honorable Leah.
Thank you, Chair. Senator Tabitha Mutinda, member of this committee.
Mheshimiwa Lea, karibu.
Thank you so much, Chair and co-chairs and members of this committee. I was not in the first meeting, but I'm happy I'm here today. I have listened to submissions from my colleagues and from the senators, and we're actually making good progress. Having keenly listened, I think I actually support my colleagues that we have to be at 4.448.1. This is because looking at the fiscal analysts, listening to the report from the fiscal analyst, and having keenly listened to the pending bills issue in the country, I think it's not fair just to work on figures. It's fair to be realistic and allocate that which is possible for achieving, and actually making sure that we start reducing the pending bills that is actually hurting this country. So also listen to Senator Boni Halwale. I think it's my first time to sit with him in a meeting, and I want to say that I appreciate that actually most of the functions that we're talking about are actually progressively. We said that most of these functions are not fully devolved, and we agree that we are progressively devolving these functions. And so we can't say that the money is allocated there is actually for nothing. We have heard from our colleagues what the money in the national government is actually meant for. And so today, I want to urge my fellow senators and colleagues from the National Assembly, let us agree on giving the counties 408.1 million. We also know that as much as we want to give a lot of money to the counties, and it's box that we don't want to open, we also want to look at the growth at which the counties are giving us development. And for sure, most of the, when we look at the budget now, most of the departments and ministries have had cuts. And fortunately for the county government, they've had an increase. And I just request that instead of stretching further and hurting other departments and other ministries who have had cuts, because we have to cut from them to give it to the county governments, let's agree, all of us, that we negotiate and give them what is available for this financial year, as we keep raising revenues, raising our avenues for revenue, so that in the coming years we can be able to actually raise. And I think it's an increase for them, which is actually a good increase. And so for me, I stand with my colleagues from the National Assembly, urging our senators that we actually do the same, so that we can progress with the committee.
Thank you very much, members. I think we are making very good progress, and I just pray that as each side makes their submissions, we allow ourselves to be persuaded, especially the people on the upper side, Please, I want to allow Senator Tabitha to make her contributions.
So that the gender discussion is put to rest.
Thank you, Chair. I think sorry for coming late, but I'm just trying to listen, especially to our counterparts from the National Assembly, because I also serve in this committee, Finance and Budget. This is a discussion I've had very closely with my colleagues from the Senate. And looking at the discussion, National Assembly proposal is 408 billion. Senate, as at now, as I'm being informed, is 430 billion.
That's a misinformation, Chair.
It is not Chair who has informed me.
But I'm just correcting, Chair. I know that she's on the floor, but just let her be informed correctly that there are three figures from the Senate. There is 450, there is 435, and there are three.
Eddie, just as I guided Dr. Pukose, I want you to give, in mediation, we don't do debate like point of order and interjection. You take note of what the colleague is saying. When you are given the floor, you can disagree. But I don't want a situation where somebody has the floor and you're interjecting right there, because then we are not making negotiation. Even if you don't like the idea, allow the person to finish what the person is saying. Then you can come in and say, I disagree. I think when you walked out, there was some decision made, but we will give you the floor. You have every right to disagree. Okay? Senator Tabitha, continue.
Thank you, Chair, for the guidance. And what I said is that these two figures are actually proposals. And what we should not lose in mind is the fact that we are here serving the same Kenyans. At the end of the day, our mission is to agree. We will disagree to agree. But definitely we have to be guided by facts. When I bring these two figures, the 408 and the 430 as per the information at hand, as a student of business, I'm trying to look at what is the difference between the 430, 408. We're talking about 22 billion is what seems now to be the bone of contention, in my understanding, currently, in terms of for us to be able to agree. Now, by look of things, when I listen to Daktari talk about the issues of health, and matters of health are currently devolved, but most of this funding are at the national level. That aside, what the Senate we tabled, we looked at the issue of the housing levy, the amounts that are there. The issue of the housing levy, the enhanced contribution of NSSF, these are bills that were passed by us members of parliament. These are not costs that the county government inflicted on themselves. So is there much discussion on housing levy of 4.01? It seems that there is an understandability in terms of us agreeing on this amount of 4.01. Enhanced NSSF contribution of 6 billion, we seem to be agreeing on that. We also seem to be agreeing on the issue of CHPs. Nobody wants to go against the remuneration of our CHPs, which amounts to 3.23 billion. Annual wage increment, it is within the law. Every year, even us as members of parliament, it's only that politically we've always refused these annual increments. It is the law, which amounts to 3.23. Annual wage increment, again, the salary for doctors is not a matter of discussion. They have always been on strike. It's us to offer the solution. So when I look at all these figures, the figure that seems to be sort of not really being encouraged is the KIPES figure, amounting to 11.8 billion. Why am I bringing this, my colleagues? The reason, first of all, I'm bringing this, yes, we pointed out that when these KIPES were being allocated funds and all that, we were not involved in this discussion. Counties should have known probably where they're supposed to get these monies. Now, narrowing those figures down, the only figure that then we can be able to reduce from what we had earlier proposed from 465 billion, the only figure that we are agreeing is the 11.8. So out of 465 less 11 billion, we are talking about 454 billion, which I think goes to what Senator Eddy probably is his proposal, probably, and is entitled to a proposal. The same way I'm entitled to a proposal, but we need to agree. So in my proposal, if we were to remove the 11 billion, which now narrows to 454 and the 408, then we need to agree at some point. And I would not mind even if we are agreeing at a figure of around at least 440, at least 435. The issue of pending meal, as you mentioned, you know, when you keep on saying county governors are eating the money, that cannot be a solution for us not to give them more funding to be able to enhance these counties. So as I conclude, Chair, I would propose, not less than 400.